Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Rusi with MBSI WAVE. Welcome to our webinar this morning with innovative circuit technology. We'll get started here in a moment. Brian, it looks like we've got 19 participants, and there was, I think, 30 people at least had registered. So we'll give people just a couple minutes to join. Just people still joining here now.
Sure, no problem.
Yep, still people still joining. And sometimes it takes a few minutes to get set up with Teams, Zoom. Still people joining. We'll give them one more minute and then we'll get rolling here. Okay, I'd say we'll get started here. So again, welcome everybody this morning. My name's Dave Rusi with MBSI WAVE. I'm part of the team here based on the West Coast in Victoria in a business development role. As I'm sure you know, MBSI WAVE has long time been a distributor of fixed wireless networks. That has been our expertise. But that's not the only thing we do. We have a broad portfolio of products and services, including solutions for hospitality, for multi-dwelling units, commercial Wi-Fi. And today we're going to be talking about DC power. So one of our strategic partners, Innovative Circuit Technology, and Brian Kline is going to walk us through the presentation today. DC power is one of those things we probably don't really think about, or power in general, until it doesn't work. So it is sort of fundamental to making all of these exciting technologies work. So with that, Brian, I will let you get started. And please, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat, and we will answer your questions either at the end, or if it's something we think that we should stop, we will stop and answer the question so everybody can hear that question in real time. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, great, Dave. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the introduction. And yeah, just in terms of questions, like Dave mentioned, if you want to plunk them into the chat, if Dave feels like they're urgent, based on where we are in this presentation, we can stop and have a Q&A at that point, or we can collect them to the end, or a little bit of both. And I'll apologize in advance. I am well under the Canadian weather now, so if I sound half Muppet, half Darth Vader to you, my apologies. And if you hear me go into a sniffling or a coughing fit, Stay tuned. I'll be back. But I'm fighting off this bug that seems to be going around. So having preambled, away we go. And let's talk a little bit about DC power, as Dave mentioned, and ICT and who we are and what we do, what we have, where it fits, and what some of our competitive advantages are. So with that being said, away we go. ICT. We're an industry leading DC power conversion company. We're based here in Vancouver, British Columbia, focusing on wireless communications, broadband. We got started in the LMR world back in the 80s, and we're the primary power vendor to industry leading OEMs and channel partners such as MBSI WAV and WAV themselves in Chicago. As I mentioned, we're a fully integrated electronics design manufacturer based here on the West Coast. Our focus is developing solutions that help our customers overcome challenges with the buzzwords we like to use, providing the highest quality, best value, and lowest total cost of ownership. So in terms of the money that you'll spend up front versus the support money and the expenses and the capital that you would have to spend on other vendors in the maintenance and support and repairs and replacements and everything of our competition, we do feel, and it's been proven both in time and money, that we are providing the lowest total cost of ownership for DC power products. And our mission is to provide intelligent, connected, and very reliable power devices to meet all the world's needs for wireless, voice, data, video, and so on. So while we are based here in Canada and sell a ton into North America, we are also a global company as well. So we have partners in Australia and New Zealand and all throughout Europe and the Middle East as well. So our products, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, are all around the globe. Our wireless network customers, as I mentioned, in the late 80s and early 90s and into the early aughts, we were focused primarily as a company on LMR, land mobile radios, power supplies to run those in fire departments, police stations, 911 call centers, and that sort of thing. And in the early 2010s, we started to broaden out and get into the fixed wireless broadband world and WAN and those kinds of applications. And what we found right off the hop was that intelligence was very much a useful feature in terms of the DC power solutions that we are providing. That ability for users to use the power plant to have visibility into their system and the connected devices and the loads and all that stuff was of a huge value. So we were the first to market with this, and we've been the dominant market leaders in that for well over 10 years now. Some of the complementary product lines, I'm sure folks on this call will recognize some or most or all of these, but we are the power plants that pair with all these devices that obviously have on switches and require power. So whether it's the Taranas or the Bicells of the world, the FreeWaves, the Saragons, the Cambiums, whoever it might be, those all require input power of some sort to run. And they're the key of your communications network. So that ability to A, power them up, but B, have them be reliable and intelligent so you can see what's going on with them is key. And it's a huge time and money saver for folks like yourselves to be able to have this confidence in the power system and all the various attributes that it can add to your system. So those benefits of remote power management, the key, the core, the crux of who ICT is and what we do and why we do it, decreasing maintenance costs and operating expenses by avoiding unnecessary site visits. So if you have visibility into what's going on at your site, all the devices that are all being powered by ICT products, that ability to get alarms and change states or cycle power, bring things on and off again to get them up and running, all that capability to be able to do that remotely from the comfort of your couch if it's 3 a.m. on a Sunday, and not have to spend time and money getting two guys in a truck or a helicopter or a skidoo, or I guess the Americans call it snowmobiles, or whatever it is, to have to truck them off to site to go flip a switch or turn a knob or cycle power or whatever it might be. That's a huge time and money and savings that you've got right there. So with that, we're increasing your overall network performance with this high quality of service to customers. As I mentioned, that ability to maintain network visibility and monitor those critical devices that are connected to our DC power plants, to control them off-site with a very simple click of a mouse or a push of a button, with a very easy GUI, a graphical user interface that we have. Our products all come with a built-in web server, all of our intelligent products. So there's no exe files to download. There's no heavy maintenance. All you require is the IP address of the device. Log that into any browser on your laptop or your tablet or your iPhone and whatnot. And now you're fully into the system to be able to see what's happening, to get alarms, to change thresholds, to cycle power, whatever it might be. It's very, very user-friendly. To get those alarms that in many cases can be resolved, like I mentioned earlier, by simply changing the state of effective device. If you've got 8 radios at a tower and one of them is glitching out on you for whatever reason, or the router is being weird, or a switch is acting up, you can simply get an alarm for that one device, check its status, cycle the power to just that individual one, leaving all the other devices alone and up and running. Bring that one offline, bring it back online. 90% of the time, as we all know, if you turn something off and back on, you'll bring it back to life, all without affecting the status of the entire network. And that's invaluable for troubleshooting and handling mishaps, which happen all the time, be it lightning strikes or bird strikes or surges, suppression and noise and whatever it might be. That ability to do that remotely for one device, not all, is key and is critical. Disconnect critical devices when in backup battery mode. So this happens all the time to everyone. Lightning strikes, hits, or blackouts or brownouts or whatever it might be. We will automatically switch you over to your backup batteries in less than one cycle. So there will be no disruption, no glitch, no kinks, no nothing going on. Everything will just keep on running as it's supposed to. And if that power outage is an extended period of time and that battery is starting to drain itself down, users have the ability through our ICT equipment to prioritize critical loads and do what we call load shedding. So you can offload some of the peripheral or secondary devices as that battery drains to keep your most critical loads and devices up and running for the maximum amount of time. And in terms of integration with network site management or other software that folks might be using to get an overall picture of what is happening at site in terms of the radios and the antennas and everything that goes into network management, we've got integrated our SNMP and our HTML and all these various protocols that allow us to just seamlessly integrate with whatever your network management software is that you have at site. And we just become another piece of that, puzzle's the wrong word, but piece of that solution that you're providing. So why ICT? We're providing this reliable power that is critical to keeping networks operational. We can convert that power from the electrical utility grid, from generators, from batteries, whatever it is, to run all the devices that you will likely have at site, the backhaul radios, the access points, the routers, the switches, and so on. So many of our products and our definitely our new generation products all include this intelligent monitoring and power control, which allows users to, again, remotely from their phone or laptop or iPad or tablet of some sort, whatever it might be, to log into the equipment, to see what's going on, monitor the status, change settings, cycle power, whatever it is, again, without having to spend the time, effort, and money to send people to site to do that for you. So some differentiators of ICT to some of the other power players in the marketplace. Now that COVID is more or less long gone, although I wonder if I'm suffering from the 8th version of it today. Our lead times are down to approximately 1 week, 2 weeks at the absolute outset for some of the oddball products. But more or less, we can ship and deliver products within about a week. Now, we have a large finished goods inventory. We have plenty of stock. MBSI WAV and WAVE have plenty of stock. So if you've got a need that's important and critical and you've got to get some stuff out to site immediately, we're all equipped now to be able to do that for you. Failure rates, obviously very important. People don't want to spend money on devices that are going to fail after 9 months, 12 months, 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, whatever it is. So we have about a less than 1%, about a 1/3 return rate of our products since our inception back in 1986. And that's fallen to 1/5 of 1% over the past 3 years. So 99.8% of the time, if you get product from ICT, it's going to work absolutely fantastically. And if it doesn't, a couple bullet points down, we've got highly knowledgeable and very responsive tech support and customer service folks who can help you with whatever is going on. So again, based in Canada, right, we're in everybody's same time zones, or slightly behind. So we've got folks manning the desk who can pick up the phone and reply to emails and talk you through your problems and help you out. But again, this is only a 0.2% of the time. So ease of installation, ease of use and simple installation. Our stuff is very intuitive in terms of by the time you're ripping the tape off the box to getting it either at the base of the tower or up the tower and plugged in and programmed and ready to do, you're typically doing this in 20 to 30 minutes, where a lot of our competition, I've heard from customers at folks and at trade shows or site visits or wherever I've been, that our competition is often double that. Often you've got to pop covers up to do some wiring. You've got to add on as a second SKU, the intelligent control module. You have to be an IT genius in order to figure out their GUI and their programming and their settings and so on. Our stuff is very, very simple. It's very much plug and play, get your settings, make your adjustments, fire and forget, let it go. And this thing should run for a dozen years, and 99.8% of the time, you'll never have to think or worry about the power that you've got at your site. So a lot of our newer products have features such as being fully scalable, configurable, and polarity agnostic. So if today you have a requirement for X amount of devices to receive X amount of power, great. And if that grows over time, you start adding more towers, you start adding more radios, you start adding more devices. Our products are scalable and we can grow with you with hot swappable power modules, for example. We just slap in another power module into a power chassis and you add more power. We can add more loads with our load distribution pieces. So if today you've got 6 loads, but next year you've got 9, and 5 years you've got 122, no worries. We've got devices that we could just add on for you without having to bring your site down, and just keep on plugging, adding more devices, getting more power, keeping it going. And our stuff will be agnostic in terms of the polarities. So grounding is obviously very important. You want to do that the right way, the first time. But a lot of our gear is either agnostic or it's defined as neg 48 or positive 48 or positive 24. And it's very clear what you're getting and how it should be wired and so on. In terms of security and connectivity, obviously we don't want an intelligent power plant to be the bane of your existence in terms of hackers and folks trying to get in and do damage to power grids and communications and all that sort of thing. So we always keep our gear with the latest protocols and security, whether it's TLS 1.2 or the protocols that we keep to make sure that all the devices can talk to not only our other equipment, but all the other equipment that's connected there as well. We really focus on making sure that we've got the latest and greatest in there for ease of use for all the equipment that you'll have on site. This orange one here is what separates us from all the other animals at the zoo. And that's that ability to individually monitor and control each connected device. So whether it's the radios or the routers or the switches or whatever equipment that you've got connected to an ICT power plant, you are able to get readings and set settings and cycle power and make adjustments and get alarms to each individual device, right down to that granularity, where if something does go wrong, like I mentioned before, with load number 4, but everything else is fine, you can focus just on load number 4 without affecting all the other equipment. And that ability to not have to bring systems offline to make adjustments or do repairs or whatever is invaluable, right? No one's getting phone calls from angry customers who've lost their connectivity because something went wrong somewhere and you had to shut the whole thing down to do a fix. That ability to avoid that pain point is crucial and why ICT exists today. We've got a feature called a network watchdog to make sure that your Ethernet connection is always there. Sometimes when the power goes out, back in the old days, the good old days, if the power went out, then you'd lose your internet connection. If you lost your internet connection, You weren't getting alarms, and therefore you didn't know the power was out, and it was that vicious cycle. You never knew what was going on at site until folks started complaining. So this built-in capability allows us to make sure that that doesn't happen. Load shedding, I mentioned earlier, that ability to prioritize your devices to say, if we're on backup battery power and it's fading fast, to say, here's tier 1 and here's tier 2 and here's tier 3 in terms of our equipment, and you shut off the fan or the phone chargers or whatever you might else have plugged into the system to keep those critical things up and running for as long as you can. So that's all built right in and is super simple to use in our GUI. Backup battery connections with advanced metrics. You've got features such as you can see the runtime remaining on your battery, your state of charge. You can even remotely test your batteries with our equipment. So again, back at the office, back at the shack, back at home, whatever it might be, nobody wants to have to rush up the mountain into the bush in the middle of February to see how your batteries are doing to run tests. Our ability to do that remotely from the comfort of your couch or your chair with our equipment, again, invaluable in terms of the time and effort and blood and sweat and tears and money that you'd have to put into maintaining a site. We've got an integrated low voltage disconnect to make sure that batteries aren't being drained to the point where things become unhappy in terms of fire and voltage and current and all those things, which can be bad for business if they're not managed properly. Some of our competition, you buy that as a separate feature or an add-on or a different SKU bolted on later. Ours all comes integrated. And then alarm reporting and data logging that I mentioned before, right? That ability to see what's going on at your site, to check your alarms, all that data is being logged into a file that you can go and access for whatever reason. We're providing that with all of our intelligent products. So all of these features are designed with the prevention of service disruption and dependable constant power in mind. In terms of the product offering that ICT has, we run the gamut. So we have rectifiers or power supplies. So this is taking your AC and converting it to DC. We've got converters, either step up or step down, which allows you to utilize multiple voltages at a site. Maybe you're using 48 volts for some of your gear, but you do have some devices that are positive 24 or 12 volts or something. We've got some simple converters that will allow you to get multiple voltages and run all the equipment, even if they are at different values. We've got distribution panels that will take a single power source and spread that power out to multiple loads like we've talked about, and being able to intelligently monitor and control each one of those. And then we have inverters as well, which will take that DC power that we are generating and be able to convert it back into AC to run a couple of pieces of gear that you might have, be it a switch or whatever Natonics or AC gear you've got at site. To run that off AC while the rest of the equipment is running at DC. So we've got a full catalog here in terms of products that we can provide for any of your power needs and applications. So some of our product families, like I talked about back in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, we were dealing in the LMR world. So we have desktop power supplies, DC UPS systems, some small wattage inverters, and so on. But where we've gone in the 2010s and beyond has been into these modular, scalable, intelligent power systems that we've created. So I look at this almost as a good, better, best scenario. And if I start at the bottom, and we'll just go from good to better to best, our Pro Series is a rack mount power supply with that integrated LVD with the option to be able to charge batteries, switch over in case of power failures. They come at a variety of different wattages. One step up from that is our Platinum Series, so same capabilities, but now we're adding that intelligent component. So we're providing output voltage and again, various different power levels, but that intelligence, the ability to get in there remotely and monitor and control what's going on at site. And then in the last 5-6 years, we've advanced into these modular power systems. So we've got a variety of flavors here. We've got some 1U chassis, we've got some 2U chassis, which just allow you to increase the amount of power or load distribution that you need at site. We can get you anywhere from 20 to 12,000 watts. They're all, the power modules themselves are hot swappable. So if one does manage to go a little goofy on you, You don't have to rush guys out to site while the power's gone down and worry about all these things. You've got redundant power supplies in there to keep your system up and running. And at the next scheduled maintenance visit or whatever it might be, you can just slap in a new one, pull out the old one, and your system's still up and running. No disruptions. No one would know. No one would be the wiser about what's going on there. Battery management, we're obviously doing that. We're connecting either 1 or 2 backup battery strings to provide you that backup power. We've got 100 amp circuit breaker protection on these guys. The low voltage disconnect will take up to 150 amps. Load distribution, as I mentioned, obviously you can plug all these different pieces of gear into our equipment and run and monitor and control them all individually. And they can all be protected with an appropriately sized circuit breaker. So anywhere from 5 amps to 30, we can provide that for you as well to protect those. But again, the circuit breakers themselves are almost secondary protection devices. All the settings, the disconnects, the reconnects, when loads will turn themselves off or turn themselves on, whether manually or automatically, can all be done through our graphical user interface. And that comes from the intelligent control module, which is in the top left corner of these chassis with an OLED front panel. So everything that you can do with our GUI, you could also do in the front panel, if that's your preferred method. But it's got the built-in web server and all the intelligence and control right in that fella there. Some other products that we've been having out in the market for the last dozen years or so, standalone distribution panels. So as I mentioned before, if you want to grow and scale your sites and your towers and what's going on with your applications, we can add more distribution panels themselves. So today you've got 4 or 6 or 9 outputs or whatever it might be. As you add more devices, we can just add distribution for you to keep adding devices that can be connected that, again, are all centrally managed and individually controlled. We've got some larger power inverters. So we've got some 1500 watt, and they also are intelligent as well. And they have a built-in transfer switch. So we can use them to alternate or fluctuate between your AC or your DC input. So always providing that steady AC power that might be required for some gear, but that ability, if there is utility power at site, great, it just flows it right through and acts like a bump in the wire. But if there is a blackout, brownout, lightning strike, whatever might happen, and now you're pulling from your DC backup batteries, it just automatically switches over and keeps that power flowing right through it. And again, you're able to monitor and control through our GUI what's going on with that stuff there. And then we also have some intelligent 3-stage battery charging. So at whatever voltage and power levels, we've got this 3-stage battery charging instead of 2, to always keeping your batteries topped up to their ultimate limit. So you maximize the amount of backup battery power that you've got. In the last year or so, we've released a few odds and sods, and I'll just touch on these very quickly. So in terms of those modular power systems that I'd mentioned earlier, the scalable, the intelligent ones with redundant power, and they're hot swappable, and all the key features that are required today in critical comms, we've actually released a power module that is twice the amount of power. So we've got options of either 700 watt or 1500 watt, and we can utilize these to effectively double the amount of power in the same chassis size. We released what we call our hybrid series. So this has a built-in converter in the power system itself. So this provides you with that secondary voltage. So again, if you've got a bunch of equipment that's running at negative 48 volts, for example, but you've got some other stuff that requires positive 24, we've got a built-in converter right into the chassis itself. So you don't have to get a second SKU, a step-down converter, mounted, connected, and so on. You can pull that second voltage right out of the main power chassis itself. We created a DIN rail series of products as well. So lower power, but still highly intelligent and highly configurable and monitorable gear that will snap right onto a DIN rail. And we're seeing some great success with this in Canada. A little bit lower power, obviously a little bit lower price, but with all those features and benefits and intelligence that we talked about in some of our other gear. And I'll throw a couple of slides up after this talking specifically about this DIN rail, just as an example of what our GUI looks like and some of the things that you can configure. But we released that guy last year. We have distribution panels with more outputs. So again, as a scalable system, our default distribution panels by themselves have 12 outputs. We're looking at maximizing this and growing that. So we released one that has 20. We'll be releasing some more down the line here that have more outputs. So no matter how many devices you've got or want to add, we've got a product that's scalable with you to run and control and monitor all that gear that you want to keep adding as your business grows. We also released a polarity reversing converter. So sometimes the gear that you have is agnostic. It doesn't care if it's positive or negative voltage. Sometimes it's very specific. This device here that you're wanting to install requires negative 48. Sometimes some of the gear requires positive 48. So instead of all that headache and scratching about what do I do with positive polarities, negative polarities, and grounding and connections and this and that, we do have a converter that will take negative 48 and convert it to positive, or vice versa. So you can be ensured that all your gear, regardless of the polarity, is connectable and runnable. So I mentioned this DIN series before. I just wanted to touch on this a little bit. Like I mentioned, we are seeing good headway for these guys in Canada. Obviously, in Canada, we don't have a ton of government flowing by the billions out to projects and applications and programs like the Americans do. So this one's a pretty decent fit in terms of the capabilities and the power and the form factor and everything that might want to be accomplished here in Canada. So it comes as two pieces. We have a standalone power supply unit and we have a standalone distribution unit, and they can be just wired together. And now you've got that full intelligence both in the power component and the load distribution component. This one has fuse protected outputs. It has an input voltage anywhere from 10 to 60 volts. It could provide you up to 60 amps of output power. We can connect things such as temperature probes to manage or monitor ambient battery temperature. So we ensure that we're charging your batteries at the best rate based on the battery temperature and the outside temperature and all those sorts of things. We have some Form C digital alarms, so you can connect other devices like door or smoke or fire or water or flood or whatever it might be. And those can be connected into our gears and monitored as well. And we think that these are ideal for, like I had mentioned before, some lower power, lower budget opportunities and applications where, for a few $100s, we can provide you all the intelligence, all the monitoring, all the control with this equipment here as well. So just in terms of, so you get an idea of what our GUI looks like, I just pulled up our DIN rail GUI with a couple of different categories I just wanted to highlight. One is this slide here, which is sort of the main control page. So from here, you can check the status of your system, the voltage, the current, any alarms that are being triggered. You can see the status of your output devices, whether they're enabled, disabled, what the voltage and current draw is of each. Here's where you can cycle power. You see the on and off switches right there. So you can very quickly just click on a disabled device to turn it on, click on an enabled device to turn it off without affecting the other ones and so on. You've got your battery metrics here, your voltage, your current, your temperature, the status of the LVD, and so on. So all of this is visible again on your phone, your laptop, your tablet, whatever it might be. In terms of the outputs, the different devices that you're connecting to this equipment, so you can give each one of them their own name, whether or not you want to allow power cycling for each one of those individual loads. If they are power cycled, what status or what state do you want them to come back in? Do they come back turned on? Do they come back and be available for you to turn on? Do you want them all to come back at once? Do you want them to be in a staggered formation in terms of how they are turning themselves back on, so you don't have a large inrush current when everything turns itself back and so on? Load shedding I talked about before, right? At what value do we start dropping off some of these devices to ensure that your critical loads remain up and running for as long as possible? So you can set this for each individual device that's connected and what that recovery threshold voltage is as well. So what voltage do we drop it off when power comes back? What voltage do we turn the back on at? What state do they come back on? And so on. overcurrent and undercurrent, right? To make sure that your devices aren't drawing too much power from a battery that might be drained, and that tends to do bad things to electrical systems. To make sure that too much power isn't being flooded into your devices, which also tends to do bad things to electrical systems. So you can set this and monitor it and control it. How you're going to get alarms for these things, whether or not you're using your Form C contacts to measure other sensor devices, like, as I mentioned, your door alarm or smoke or fire or flood or whatever it might be. So all of these can be figured right within our GUI as well. And then in terms of those alarms, how do we activate them? Which ones do we want? Which ones don't we want? Which ones do we want to send texts or emails or however that's going to come to us? What those thresholds are again for each individual alarm, and so on. So all configurable right down to the individual load. So you can configure and monitor and control the entire system, each connected device, the battery, whatever it might be. All of this is very simple with points and clicks on your phone, tablet, whatever it might be again, just to monitor and control this equipment. Very easy to use. You don't have to be an MIT major in electronics or IT to understand this stuff. It's very intuitive, very user-friendly. And this is just an example. And our other products tend to mirror this basic look and feel in terms of our graphical user interface. So is ICT a good fit for you? So I've created 4 questions here just for you to navel gaze and ask yourself, or the person sitting next to you, if you want to make it a social experiment, what would make ICT a good fit for you? And here's 4 questions you can ask yourself. And if the answer is yes to any one or more of these, then ICT is likely a very good power vendor for you for your application. So are you interested in a solution that, as I've talked about, can remotely monitor and control your individual equipment, to be able to configure, set thresholds, make adjustments, cycle power to each piece of gear, either all together or individually? Are you looking for a power solution that can simultaneously charge a battery and power multiple devices, perhaps even at those 2 different voltages, like I mentioned, and in the event of a power outage, automatically switch over to backup batteries and keep your system up and running glitch-free? Are you interested in a solution that can provide redundancy so that even in that unlikely event that one piece of the power system, a power module, might fail, you've created a redundant system that is power sharing and keeps your devices all up and running? And in case that one does go kablooey for whatever reason, it's highly unlikely, you've got enough modules there to keep the system up and running till you can just do your regular scheduled maintenance. And by that, you're making sure that this system never fails. And or are you looking for a solution that can provide these advanced battery metrics like state of charge, runtime remaining, the capability to do remote battery testing without having to go up the hill or down the valley or wherever it might be to go do it on site? Again, you can just do it with our equipment and our gear. Super simple. If any or all of these seem like they're adding value to your site and your system or your use case, then ICT is probably a good fit. And you can talk to ourselves or the folks at MBSI WAVE about which one would be right for you. And how do we figure out which one is right for you? I've created for folks like WAVE and MBSI WAVE to interact with customers, collecting the information that's required to be able to say, all right, here's the product mix of ICT gear that's the best fit for you and why. And these are the types of questions that folks like Dave would ask you to figure out, okay, what's going on at your site? What's unique about it? What's going to be the best solution for you at the price point and the capability levels that you're looking for? So it's relatively simple. It's some box ticks and blank filling inning, and Dave can very quickly, and the rest of the team at MBSI WAVE, come up with an ICT solution for you. So to summarize, ICT, we've established ourselves as a very reputable power solution provider in multiple markets. We've got some very unique features that offer significant operational and financial benefits to folks like yourselves. Our product design and manufacturing quality are critical to the markets and applications that we serve, where you can't have failures and you can't have downtime. It's critical, and you want your power piece not to be the weak link in that critical communication system. We are not that weak link. Our excellent pre and post sales support is recognized by customers literally globally. We get all kinds of kudos to our tech support and customer service folks that are highly responsive, highly intelligent, and that I hear more and more and more is one of the big differences between ourselves and some other folks. We reply to emails, we answer the phones, we make problems simple and easy to solve. And we're really good at that, and I'm really proud of the team that does that. And our continual and customer-driven design, development, manufacturing, and release of our products is, again, like I mentioned, globally renowned. ICT as a brand is very well known at both ends of the earth, for those of you who might be flat earthers, in the Americas and Australia and New Zealand. And we are making great headway at the moment in the Middle East and Europe, and Asia is, of course, always a tough nut to crack, but we're working on it. But folks around the world have nothing but positive things to say about our gear. So with that being said, final slide. Here's how to get a hold of myself or some of the other folks here at ICT. Obviously, MBSI WAVE is the sponsor of this webinar, and thanks Dave and crew for putting this on. These guys are extremely knowledgeable about our equipment as well. So you're always welcome to reach out to us at any time. You're encouraged to reach out to Dave and the gang to talk about your applications, your solutions, your needs, what MBSI WAVE can do for folks like yourselves. And with that, I will shut up for a second, see if Dave's collected any questions or has any final thoughts, but I need to have a drink of something.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Brian. That was great. Very good presentation. So I want to see, is there any questions? You pop your questions in the chat. We'll get you answers.
Either everyone's asleep or I did a hell of a job. I wonder which one it is.
Yeah. Brian, you're going to be at CanWISP, I believe, right?
We are not this year. No,
you are not. Okay.
We will be at WISP America in the States, but this year we decided not to do CanWISP. No. Okay. But you guys will be there, obviously, repping us, repping our products, talking about it to folks there. So
we absolutely will.
I have nothing but faith in you guys.
Yeah.
Get them, Dave.
Yep. So we as Brian said, we've got lots of people within our team that are very knowledgeable on the ICT solution, and obviously work with Brian and his team on a regular basis. So if you've got questions, we can get you answers quickly and look at different scenarios and put the bill of materials together for your specific project. So
hey guys, we've got a question in the chat. This is Zach Hubeck. Quick question, Brian, any application examples using an LTE modem to send text messages for alarm notifications? Can you give us a quick answer on that, please?
Well, in terms of our GUI, you can configure it to get your alarms either via email or text. So again, our intelligence is all built into the Ethernet connectivity of our systems. But in terms of the alarm acquiring by folks, it can be configured either as by email or by text on the GUI itself as part of the data log and so on. So I don't know if that answers that question, but you can get your alarms either by text or by email or whatever means you want. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. With that, then, I don't see anything else either in the chat as well. So I will say thank you, everybody, for your time and your awakeness. And I hope this sheds some light on some of the things that power can do. It's not just a cord and a cable and a plug in a wall. There's all kinds of value to DC power systems and plants that we can provide to systems. And as I hand it off to Dave and the gang at MBSI WAVE, as I mentioned before, these guys are very knowledgeable. They have stock of our product on the shelves. They will be at shows, CanWISP, for example, talking about our equipment. They're more than happy to talk to you about it. And if at any point anybody does want to reach out to me directly, I am available at those email addresses on the screen. But again, I encourage you just to talk to the folks at MBSI WAVE. about your needs and what they can do for you with ICT gear. Thanks, Dave.
And Brian, and we do have one more question here. It looks like a great product and platform. Is there going to be a link provided to the recording? So yes, by the end of the day, folks, this will be posted on our YouTube channel for you to see and review. You can forward that link as it is public to any of your colleagues. Happy to share that. And you can count on the MBSI WAVE team to follow up with you if you did have any subsequent questions, folks.
Perfect. That was exactly what I was going to say. Is we'll make sure that everybody has access to the recording, the charts, and then if you got any questions, please reach out.
Sorry, I stole your thunder, Dave.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good question. So, all right. Any last questions before we wrap it up here?
All right. Thanks, team.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I hope to sell you a bunch of stuff soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, everyone.